Hello guys, welcome to my channel Mystery Recap. Today I am going to explain 2006 animated crime drama movie called Death Note. In Tokyo, the police are chasing after a criminal whose wanted posters are all over the place. The guy makes it to a crowded street and takes a random girl as hostage, threatening to shoot her. At that moment, his chest begins hurting and he falls to the ground, where he quickly dies of a heart attack. The next morning, the deputy director of Foreign Affairs is walking out of his office, only to be surrounded by a bunch of reporters. Before he can tell them off, he also falls and dies of a heart attack. Nearby, a congressman accused of murder is released over a lack of evidence, but he dies of a heart attack as he is also surrounded by reporters. As days pass, more and more criminals begin suddenly dying of heart attacks all over the city, even in their cells. As the police and the media realize this can't be a coincidence, everyone starts talking about the person behind this and calls him Kira, which is the Japanese pronunciation of the word killer. Some people are in favor of what Kira does because crime is going down, while others think no human has the right to play the god like that. Some religious groups actually think it's gods behind this, finally passing judgment against sinners. One night, a newscast informs that a guy has broken into a financial company and is holding the employees hostage. When Light sees the name and picture of the criminal on TV, he immediately takes out his notebook and writes the name down. In just a few seconds, the reporter announces that the criminal suddenly died of a heart attack. The next day at college, Light and his girlfriend Shiori discuss the subject of Kira. Shiori is against Kira's actions and believes in the law, pointing out Light will help people more fairly when he becomes a lawyer. However, Light shares that he has lost faith in the law. A few weeks ago, he hacked into the police system and discovers lots of cases were dropped without catching or punishing the criminals. Refusing to believe it, one night he went to a bar where he overheard the criminals talking about how much they loved killing. Soon they noticed Light staring at them and threatened him with a knife as they pointing out nobody could put them behind bars. Shiori is disgusted by the story too, but Light does not share the real ending. When he left the bar, Light threw his law book into a pile of trash. Disgusted by the current state of the system, nearby he found a mysterious notebook with the words Death Note on the cover. He took it home and read the first page, which said that whoever's name was written in the notebook would die. Light thought it was a joke, but when he saw on the news a murder on the loose, he wrote the name on the notebook just for fun. The next morning, he read the newspaper and was shocked to discover the criminal was dead. At first, he thought it was a coincidence, but later, while Light is taking a walk, he saw the criminal from the bar and decided to try again. Light wrote the guy's name on the notebook while watching from across the road, and to his surprise, the guy suddenly fell and died from a heart attack. Now that he was sure the notebook was powerful, Light read the other rules. The notebook only worked if the writer could visualize the person's face in their mind, and if the cause of death was not specified within 40 seconds after writing the person's name, they had died of a heart attack. Afterward, Light headed home only to cross across a terrifying creature that introduced himself as Ryuk. It turned out he was Grim Reaper and only people who touched the notebook could see him. He was the one who dropped the notebook for Light to find and wanted to see what a human could do with it. So Light was free to use it as much as he wanted. After hearing this, Light swore to use the Death Note to create a world without crime. 4 months later, the police are still investigating the Kira case, but they have no leads. One of the detectives involved is Suichiro, who is also Light's father. The cops are desperate for any clues, so they agree to work with L, a mysterious genius that communicates with them through a laptop handled by his butler. L has analyzed the data of all the mysterious crimes that have been happening all over the world and has concluded that L is in Japan. To prove it, he makes a plan with the cops. Sometimes later, Light is watching a special worldwide broadcast in which a detective swears he has enough evidence to catch Kira. His name is on the screen, so Light immediately writes it on the Death Note, and the guy dies on television. Suddenly, L's logo appears on the screen and his voice explains it had all been a trap. The guy who died was just a criminal from the death row, and the broadcast was not truly worldwide. It was presented as such to trick Light, but it was actually only transmitted in Japan to confirm his location. L ends the broadcast by promising to catch Light and give him the death sentence. Light wants to strike back but does not have L's real name or face, so he is powerless. Ryuk explains his Reaper eyes are capable of seeing people's names and time of death. That's how he collects souls. He can share this power with Light, but he must pay with half of his remaining lifespan, so Light turns it down. The next day, L presents the corpse with the new calculations he is made, revealing that all the timings of the deaths match a college timetable, meaning Kira is a college student who does not kill during classes, since Light keeps hacking into the police system to keep up with their case. He quickly learns about their conclusions and remembers that the notebook's rules state he can establish the time and cause of death, so he writes down a bunch of deaths and programs them to happen during the whole day. When L sees this, he can tell Kira is covering his tracks and concludes there is someone in the force leaking information. He has no choice but to start investigating all the cops and their families. A few days later, Light is taking a walk with Ryuk and notices someone is following him. Ryuk says that the same person has been following Light for 2 days already. He did not say anything because he must stay neutral. Sometimes later, Light and Shiori takes the bus and the guy sits behind them. Light immediately confronts him, but the man pretends he doesn't know anything. At that moment, a crazy man gets on the bus and takes the passenger hostage. Light recognizes him as a wanted criminal who recently escaped from prison and he wants to help. So he writes on the piece of paper that he is about to tackle him. When the man behind him sees this, he immediately warns him of the danger and tells him to trust him because he is FBI. Light does not believe him, so the man shows him his bandage and Light can see his name Ray. Noticing the guy stalking, the criminal comes closer and snatches the piece of paper from Light, which turns out to be a torn portion of the death note. This allows the guy to see Ryuk, so he immediately panics and opens fire. Bullets can't hurt Ryuk and the criminal gets more scared, so he rushes out of the bus only to get hit by a car and die instantly. Light is not surprised by this turn of events. He wrote all this down in the notebook to kill the criminal and get the agent's identity at the same time. Now Light knows the cops are looking for the information leaker. He wants to kill Ray but can't because he had become the prime suspect. So he will have to gather the identities of every FBI connected to the case first. Sometimes later, Ray says goodbye to his fiancée Naomi after suddenly cancelling plans for the day. Finding this suspicious, Naomi starts following him and boards the subway with him. Meanwhile, Ray grabs an envelope that someone left for him and finds a bunch of paper sheets together with a radio. At that moment, Light contacts him from the other train car, using a distorted voice to say he is Kira. When Ray asks for proof, Light kills the man sitting next to Ray, who is also a criminal. Light threatens to kill all the passengers on the train if Ray does not do as he says, so Ray follows his instructions on his laptop. He accesses the police database and looks at the list of FBI agents involved in the case. Then he copies all the names on the paper sheet while looking at their profile pictures. All the FBI agents start dying at the same time, and after seeing Ryuk in the window, Ray steps out of the train, but he also has a heart attack. Naomi rushes to his side, but it's too late. Light watches this from inside the train and smirks in satisfaction while recovering the envelope, revealing the paper he had given Ray were pages from the death note. Later at the police station, Soichiro tells the other cops that Kira has begun to kill agents, so nobody in the force is safe. Everyone involved is allowed to leave now without getting punished or judged for it. Most of the team immediately leaves the room and only a few officers stay behind to help. Since things are getting serious, the team demands to meet L in prison. The request is accepted and they soon visit an apartment where they finally meet L, who turns out to be very young. L has deduced Kira can manipulate the time and cause of death, but he also needs the victim's name, so he tells everyone to use fake names from now on. L looks at all the security camera tapes from the subway station and notices Ray pointed at someone on the train before dying. He then tells the cops their families are suspects and will be monitored for a week. Meanwhile, it's revealed Naomi used to be FBI too and even worked for L. She wants justice for Ray and starts investigating on her own, eventually getting some details about the bus incident from the driver getting suspicious. She goes to confront Light at college, but he denies knowing anything. Before leaving, Naomi admits she gave him a fake name as part of her plan to prove Light is guilty. When Light returns home, he notices the pencil leads he had put on his door are on the floor, which means someone was in his bedroom. He goes inside and works on his homework while ignoring Ryuk, who he gets more annoyed by the second. Later, when Light goes out for a walk, he explains to Ryuk that his room was probably bugged. His theory is right, and now L and the cops are watching his room 24/7. For the first few days, nothing happens. Eventually, a criminal dies in mysterious circumstances, and Soichiro thinks it's enough proof. But L points out Kira can manipulate the time of death, so they need to wait for the death of a recently caught criminal. A few days later, Light goes to his room after dinner with a bag of chips, which he eats while studying. At that moment, the newscast talks about a case involving a new criminal who soon dies from a heart attack. Soichiro is delighted to see this because it proves his son is innocent, and L has no choice but to let them remove the cameras even if he is still suspicious. The next day, Ryuk confirms there are not any bugs left, and Light explains how he did it. He hid a tiny TV and piece of the death note inside the bag of chips, then wrote with his hand inside the bag. Sometimes later, Naomi calls L to tell him she will give the evidence they need. Meanwhile, Light goes to an art gallery for his date with Shiori, only to discover Naomi has taken her hostage. A furious Naomi tells Light to confess, but he continues to deny he is Kira and begins of Shiori's life. Getting desperate, Naomi reveals her real name to see if he will kill her, and Light grabs a pen while L watches everything through the security cameras. At that moment, the police arrive and Naomi gets distracted, giving Shiori the chance to free herself and run towards Light. Naomi panics and fires her gun, accidentally shooting Shiori instead of Light. He runs to her side and Shiori kisses him before dying. Feeling guilty, Naomi decides to use her gun to self-delete and reunite with Rei. Afterward, Ryuk asks Light about Shiori, only to notice Light is not sad at all and he has been acting. It turns out this was part of his plan to clean his name. He had discovered Naomi's name by investigating Rei's engagement and finding the church where the couple had a reservation. Then he made her do all the things she did a moment ago, including shooting the gun randomly and the self-deletion. He also wrote Shiori would be nearby and would be killed by a gunshot at the same time. And since almost nobody in Japan carries a gun, the death note naturally linked the deaths. Even a grim reaper like Ryuk is disgusted by Light's coldness. With his name clean, Light pretends to be very upset and want to catch the criminal behind Shiori's death. Since Light held the force in the past, Soichiro agrees to let him help with this case too. Then Light is introduced to L, who meets him while eating with the same bag of chips Light used for his plan. In the meantime, a celebrity named Misa is running away from a crazy co-worker who wants her all for himself. Suddenly, the guy drops dead from a heart attack and Misa sees a death note on the ground. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching. If you like it, so please don't forget to subscribe my channel.